Okay, so in the next one we are going to do a little bit of Pride and Prejudice. So we have some text from Pride and Prejudice. Potentially we have a lot of text. That text contains dialogue, and we are going to assume the dialogue is always enclosed by these single quotation marks, two at a time. So 2 single quotation marks indicate the beginning of dialogue, 2 single quotation marks indicate the end of dialogue. And we want this function, given such a long text string with a lot of dialogue in it, potentially, we want it to extract the dialogue and just print it out one piece of dialogue on each line. So that's what this print the dialogue function should do, and it's in this parentheses .py file. So parentheses, and here's dialogue. This is a slightly different example, but that's fine. So it should start by printing out this. If I use control click, I can go to the definition of the function. That's super convenient. This definition of the function. And I don't know what to print out, but I can insert a breakpoint and then I can start experimenting. Okay, so now we started the debugger. Notice the debug symbol. You can select debug here. And we are in the debugger. Okay, so what I should probably do here is that I should start by thinking about how I would find a single piece of dialogue. So if I have this piece of dialogue, it's called the variable s. So I'll just go to the debug console and write out s. I want to find where the dialogue starts. So I can do that by using the find method, like this. And now I copy paste it in here, and that gives me s, and start is 0. Is that even true? No, wait a second, I made a mistake. Oh, this is really fun. Okay, so this what happened here? Why is this 0? That's because I'm searching for the empty string. Remember that this is a way of writing a text string. So this thing is actually a text string. It's not 2 single quotation marks. It's an empty text string. And it starts with an empty text string because the empty text string is always a substring of, like, it. Technically speaking, it starts with an empty string. Because, well, it does, like there's an empty string here. It's a little bit cute. So what I need to do is I need to actually enclose it in quotations like this, and now I'm searching for this text string. That was a trap. That was tricky. But now I run it, and then I see it's 9. And that's actually where we start. So this is another example of why the debugger can be a useful thing to have open and test things, because you can catch mistakes like this when they happen. Remember my start of this, the first video I had for this week about knowledge. This was me catching a mistake right when I made it, instead of discovering much later. Wait, so anyway, this is how we can find where the quotation starts. So now we're here. Now we need to find this one. So the way I can do that is that I can say s.find, still look for quotation marks, but when I just run this, it of course still gives me 9, which is not what I want. But if I start looking only after the 9th character, and actually after the 10th character or the 11th character, because I don't want to, I don't want to start looking here, because then I'll just find it again. I want to start looking from here and forward, because then the first one I hit will be this one. I can tell Python that by giving it a second index. This is described in ThinkPython. It's also something that we used in an earlier exercise. So if I do that, now end is 33. And then I can check if it looks correct. And so of course, how do I generalize this so it always works? Well, the obvious way of doing that is that I say I start at start plus 2. And now it works. So let's try to check if this was correct. So let's look at the substring from start to end and just print that out. Oops, that was a mistake, because I need to select all the lines like this. and I ran it, and now we can see that it looks almost correct, but I still include 2 quotation marks too much, so I need to add 2 here. So like, this is an example of how I can use the debugger to sort of fudge my results until they match. And now I have the first string. Well, that's the first one. I need to keep doing that for all of them. So imagine, like, since I don't know how many strings there are, it's a natural thing is to start with a loop. Like this. But if I just do this again and again, I'm like always going to extract the first one of them. I want to first extract the first of these substrings, and then I want to move on and extract the next one. So the next time the loop runs, I should actually start here. I should start from here. Right? I should look from here and forward and find the first starting point. In other words, it's like I should do something like end. But of course end is here, and I actually need to add 2 because I need to start here, because otherwise I would just find the end index. I should actually maybe do something like this. And now it would maybe work. However, end is not defined in the beginning, so I need to define end. And I want this to be actually equal to 0 in the first go, because I need to start looking right from the start of the text string, so maybe I could define end as -2, sorry. Now this looks a little bit better. So let's see what happens when I run this. It doesn't terminate. So it gave me an error. So why does this give me an error? Let's try to examine that by closing the debugger, putting in a breakpoint here, and just start running it and see if we can discover what the problem is. So start is 9, end is 32, and the first piece of dialogue is this. That looks fine. So now let's put up a breakpoint here and press go. And we start over. And what does start become? Well, end is 32, so this will be 33. So in other words, we find 60. That seems fine. So no problem here. Let's try to jump a bit. So 60, end is 80, and the substring here is this. So that's fine. So you might suspect that the problem occurs after the end, because what happens in that case? Well, we go up here, and now n plus 2 is 81. So what does this do? Because the text is not that long, it gives us a -1. So maybe what should happen is that if this is -1, we should actually stop the for loop. That kind of seems reasonable. And maybe that solved the problem. So remember, we should print out the text, so maybe we print it out here, like this. I save the script, I close it, and we probably don't need to print this one out. And now let's try to run it without breakpoints. And now it looks fine. So let's try to do the tests. It looks like the text is for some reason over here. That doesn't seem like a smart idea, but it is. Let's run the test. It works. So we solved it correctly. So this is an example of how we can use like iterative examination in the debugger to solve our problems, figure out what goes wrong, backtrack, and eventually come up with a correct solution. So I hope that was instructive. Thank you.